shut because that's where we're waiting for that next check to get in.
Right.
Okay, and when you have to keep your mouth shut, let me ask you this: does that do anything to your spirit? Does that do anything to your soul? Does that do anything to your health? High blood pressure, heart attacks. We have to start looking at what is going on in these areas, in those health areas, where we have to keep our mouths closed. Okay, I think we have to speak out more and start also teaching more of entrepreneurship, because if one can give it to you, they can take it away, as you said, at any time.
Yeah. So this communication, we have to speak out, brings us full circle already, because we opened up talking about the communications between African American peoples, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, father and daughter, that kind of thing. So, I mean, where is the solution? Because if we correct ourselves and do the right thing, spiritually, career-wise, but if the system says, oh, no, we're not going to do the right thing just because you're doing the right thing. So do we eliminate ourselves from being a, quote, victim by not going into, I mean, you just think about street life. You think about black-on-black crime. I mean, this is stuff where there is no agenda. We get together, we talk, we don't know what we want to talk about. And so all of a sudden we get into some bottom feeders, some mud slinging and things like that. Eventually it devolves to that, as opposed to coming in with an agenda and talking about social justice, talking about careers, talking about the things that we need to communicate to our young people in particular, but clearly even our parents. I mean,
yes, well, we got, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But when you talk about dealing with the young people, if a young man's father does not stand up and be accountable, what do you think is going to happen to that son? You know, so we have to, you know, it's not about me. It's about my offspring. It's about my kids and my grandkids. What's going to become of them? Because I can't, you know, expect somebody else to take the responsibility that I'm supposed to be doing. So we all have a responsibility to be who we are in spite of the job you're doing or the job that pays to put food on your table, because we do have the genius to be able to create circumstances for ourselves. But we've been taught, this is what this whole educational system is about: grow up, go to college, get a job.
That's right.
We should be about grow up, educate yourself, and create your own job.
That's right.
That's what it's all about. But see, because we've been indoctrinated with European psychology for so long, we think it's all about working for somebody. And I remember somebody was saying, mentioning this statement about this one night, and they was talking about how much money Shaq had. And how rich he was, and the guy says, "I don't care nothing about Shaq. I want to be the guy who signs Shaq's check." That's what we need to be, the people who are signing the check versus standing around waiting on the check. Because when we do the thing, when we sell our soul for a job, we are actually on welfare in a way, because we at the disposal of that person who signs our check. And if we say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or become active in any way that threatens what this person has in place, then they have to get rid of you.
But when you work in that corporate America or work for someone else and someone else is signing your check, you're a puppet on a string. You speak when spoken to. You follow set rules. You show up when they tell you to show up. You wear what they tell you to wear. You can't think for yourself. You have to think every day and process your everyday thinking on how they tell you to, or else. They have the power
Yes, but
to take that money and that check from you and kick you out the door and shut the door. And I've experienced that. It's even worse from a woman's perspective as a single mom. When the worst thing you can ever let Caucasians on a job know is that there's no man in the home. And I say that because then they think that they have the ultimate power over you, the power of dangling this job over your head. And you are treated in a way that I cannot convey. But it was the day that I went in to let them know I have another job, I don't need your job anymore, and I make more money here, that I started getting respect. They started recognizing my value and my worth to the company. And then that stress and that power, that stress, it was stressful walking into that environment every day. And now that I'm on the other side, after losing a job after 4 years, and starting my own businesses and stepping out and coming into who Tisha is today, I was forced to go back into that corporate world in order to maintain my family And I tell you, it's just depowering. It's hard to walk into a place when you're used to being in control of who you are and
yes.
everything about yourself in your life, and then walking in again being a puppet on a string. But I walk in differently this time because I walked in with my head held erect and my back up. I'm here for a paycheck and that's it. I'm a woman first. And I had to reiterate that to my boss, as well as I have to constantly reiterate that to my coworkers, especially young women that's younger than me. So, you know, it's really, with that being, my point I'm making is you are, when you work for someone else, a puppet on the string, you have to play by their rules. The key is, I want to ask you guys, is how in the world can we change that? How can we teach? Because now I teach my children. College is okay. But everybody's not cut out for college.
Exactly.
Your biggest CEOs didn't go to college. Oprah Winfrey didn't go to college. You know, we were speaking about this in the studio.
Steve Jobs
didn't go to college.
He
These are
really
all,
dropped out, I think, didn't he?
yeah.
Well, we have to build our own institution. We have
That's
to first,
right, and that's what I
I
teach my
believe
kids.
that it's a duality of spirituality as well as education. And until we start to go back, if you will, to understand the greatness of whom we are, because we started bartering. Okay, black people started that. It wasn't a European idea, and until we start to recognize those things which we have had suppressed for hundreds of years, that we have no idea about who started psychology, philosophy, all these things came from mathematics, all that came from us. So once we start to realize that these things are from ourselves and start teaching ourselves and not afraid to be, as Umar Johnson would say, unapologetically African. We have to stop being afraid. Chinese people are happy with whom they are. Japanese are happy who they are. French are happy with whom they are. They own and control their own resources as well. And until we start to look at controlling our own resources and able to build our own institution, then we're going to still get fed the same food.
That's right.
Well, I mean, it's clear that, you know, the Japanese and all the other different groups, they may go into a system and work within that system,
right.
but the total objective is to be self-sustaining.
That's right.
Everything goes back to that.
That's
we
right.
need to do that as African people. You know, if we're going to go in, sure, we have to go in there to get food. We have to eat, and we have our kids, and they have to eat. But at that same time, while we're doing that, we need to be teaching, because that's what my grandfather did. Here's a man who was in slavery for 40 years, you know, and he was constantly, when he was free, he was constantly telling us, you got to get your own, get you some land, get you this, get that. And we don't have to work for nobody else. But see, when you teach your kids to grow up, go to school, go to college, what you wind up with is what my grandfather used to call them educated fools. Because you go to college and you get that education, and then you're at the mercy of this person. Doesn't matter how much you know.
You can't build anything.
Well,
you can't build anything unless he allows you to build it.
Well, I agree with you partly, but then I also have to disagree. If you're going to go and get their education, then take it like the Japanese and any other kind of needs come here when they come to America. They get that education, then they go back and use it in their community, in their country.
Where would you go back to?
Well, we can go back right here. We can start, because we are a nation within a nation. So we can start building our own nation here, okay, because we're the biggest consumers. It's not that we don't have money, we make money, but we just give it back to them. So if you go and say, look, slave man, you're gonna be free now. I'm gonna give you a job. But if I go around the corner and have to go and buy every single thing back from you, then guess what? I'm still building your industry, okay? We have to start doing those sort of things ourselves and not being afraid to spend black dollar with black dollar.
Well,
right.
you know,
That's
and when you the issue that you're talking about, we're on the same page here, because
Yeah.
the real issue is, if you read the Wandering Jew and the International Jew, they talk about this stuff that they are going to do to us, and we're going to enslave ourselves to what they're selling. They said, we are going to set it up where they will be able to make these outlandish salaries, but we'll also raise the price of housing. We'll raise the price of food, so every dime that they make will be going directly back to us.
Yeah, it's,
So,
it's crazy.
and the only way out of that is when we totally withdraw and have our own individual session over here where we can go and buy our stuff and encourage our people to shop with.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Birmingham bus boycott. Right. Those
Yes.
people for 381 days said, I'm not riding the bus. It brought Birmingham to
Brought
its
them to
knees.
their knees.
brought
Yeah,
The
we just hit
only
them in their
thing-
pockets, of course.
That's the
Hit
The
them.
only
That's all
thing
we
that
have.
they recognize is dollars.
It's dollars.
So
That's right.
what better way for if we take those dollars out of their pocket?
Instead of going to an Asian shop on the corner and buying all your hair products. If you need to get hair products, look at a black organization.
Now, is there a block, a physical street that has an entrepreneurial spirit, African American owned,
A block,
anywhere
a
in
whole
the
block.
country, just similar to what Chinatown, Germantown, Japantown? There are thousands of them across the fruited plain. But I'm asking the question: is there an African American town where it generates profit, it generates ownership, it generates positive circulation of the money? To your knowledge,
Not to my knowledge.
not since
You
Tulsa,
gentlemen?
Oklahoma.
Not since Oklahoma, not since Rosewood, those kind of places. Because the number one thing is that if I have a business and I have to buy my products from the man, he's going to put such a price on those items that I'm going to have to jack the prices up to my constituents, the people who shop with me. So therefore, they're not going to support me. The only way we can do it, we have to do what Garvey was trying to do.
That's right.
We have to become international.
That's
We
right.
have to be able to bring produce and products in here.
That's right.
Then we don't have to ask the man, look, give me a break here.
So rather than it being a catch-22, you can't get the resources because you wind up having to spend or pass on the what you would consider a subsidy. You can't pass it on
You
to your
can't pass
customers.
it on to your people.
So by opening up the boundaries,
Right.
international, global.
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
When I lived in Sydney, I started, I want to say in '94, the WASG, World African Social Gathering. And that was to connect with black people. I don't care if you were born in England. I don't care if you were born in Ghana. I don't care if you were born in America. We have one thing in common that we deal with, which is white inferiority. And if we have that in common, then we need to bring our resources together because, as you said earlier, we're the largest, we make up 9/10 of the world's population. 9 out of every 10 people are black and or of color. And that color came from out of black. So therefore, you cannot be a minority. So it's a psychological, it's a mental thing, and once we start to change our thought process, then we will start connecting those dots. And I believe as a people, once we start connecting, not just here in America, but on a global scale, because when those folks go into the European Union, they're talking about this. How can we control the world? Look, how can you stay out of my way, but how can we keep these people in control?
Well, you know, one of the main reasons why Malcolm was murdered was because when he went to Africa and got all these African
That's
countries
right.
to come to the table and sit down and start having dialogue.
Right.
That's when they realized we have got to stop this, brother. When he said we're going to file a suit against the
Airtight
United Nations,
grievance, yeah.
then he started to get. That's when the deal, the rug came out.
I was fortunate to get a book, The Travel of the Diary of Malcolm X, published by his daughter, Quibala. Shabazz, I believe, is the publisher of it. But Malcolm is writing his notes each day when he is making his pilgrimage, and then he continues on to visit Africa, London, and parts of Europe. But one of the things that they asked him, as a black Muslim, and I thought maybe the emphasis would be more on how is the Nation of Islam different than Orthodox Muslim. But they were asking another question as well, and that is, where are your businesses? Where are your institutions? So these are people who are Muslims, and his brother, they could be bluest of blue eyes, blondest of blonde hair, white skin, brown skin, whatever it is, but they know that on the international globe, that we as African Americans don't own anything.
And the sad part about that is we have the capabilities
It's right here,
of
right
owning.
now.
I mean, it's what is it, $800 billion in the African. If we just took the wealth, the money that we spend